What's up, wees? Welcome back to Anime Lane. I'm your host, Notorious. Join me once again today is Shaun.
Wow.
And no one else.
No.
It's just us, which...
It feels so empty when you just say me.
Yeah.
No one else.
That does mean, once again, we are just talking about video games, because left unattended,
It's still our domain.
Actual children.
Of course we are.
So last time we talked about just Resident Evil, because that's been a big thing for us this year. But now we're just going to kind of talk about, I guess because it's December, when this comes out, kind of late December, it's worth just talking about what we've been playing this year.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I keep track of what I'm playing because I'm a stats nerd, I guess, sometimes.
I don't keep track of it as much as you do, but I do, like, when I do look back at the year, I do try and remember, like, specific periods, or like what I was playing in specific periods of the year for me. Like, to sort of start off like a little bit, I started off this year with like Rebirth. Like, that sort of defines the start of the year for me.
Which is interesting because Rebirth is like after a little bit of other games for me at the beginning of the year. Because I sort of finished up Endwalker for Final Fantasy XIV, which I'll come back to later because that's also what I've been playing recently. But I also tried to play like Monster Hunter Rise, and I just didn't get on with it whatsoever. I replayed the first couple of the new Wolfenstein games. I replayed Armored Core 6 because I got my Steam Deck. So I was just fucking around with a bunch of different games at first, just to see what it could do, and then I started emulating stuff on it. So that's when I got to the other stuff. But yeah.
I kind of hit you with the emulation bug when you realized how easy it was to do, because I had been doing it for like about half a year before you.
I mean, I always knew it was a relatively easy thing, but like this, having the Steam Deck and just being able to, like, because of where I was mentally at the time at the start of the year, like just being able to stay in bed, have like comfort stuff on the TV, and just play something handheld, which also has longevity of battery life, because you know, the more recent game you play on a Steam Deck, like, the more battery sucking it's gonna be. Like, you can get like maybe 45 minutes out of the Resident Evil 2 remake before the battery's dead. So
wow.
Yeah. Just depends on like how intense it is, but if you're playing like the original Resident Evil 2, like, you can be there for like 8 hours and like you still got 50% battery life.
Damn, nice.
But yeah, no, Rebirth was like both of our first big games of the year, like, at least, because I don't think we've really, either of us have played much that's came out this year.
No, it's been a slower year, definitely, compared to last year.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Last year felt like big release after big release after big release. But like Rebirth, it came out pretty early in the year as well, because that was like what?
February?
Like January, early February?
Yeah. It was February, yeah.
February. And like in the build up to it, both of us really were like fully on like the hype train, because like I had played Final Fantasy VII for the first time around this time last year, around December-ish. So, and then in the build up, I don't think I replayed. No, I finished off Remake, I think, at some point. Did I do that?
You had played Remake in full a while ago.
Yeah, I did Remake like in full a while ago. Then I know where I'm getting confused, because I started original I started original 7 in like the summer.
Then you played Crisis Core as well.
Yeah, I remember I getting confused because I started original 7 in like summer 2023, and then I finished it like a half a year later, because I got distracted like halfway through, or like a third of the way through, to be honest. But
yeah, because I think
then I was.
You had just gone a little beyond the first disc, I think.
Yeah, roundabout. I think it was. It wasn't just after Midgar, but it was like maybe around Costa del Sol or something like that.
Yeah.
I just sort of stopped.
I think we both got to a similar point before stopping with the game for a bit.
Yeah. But anyway, I came back to Original 7 like in December, and then blasted through all that, and then in the hype I I watched Advent Children, and then I played Crisis
Mm-hmm.
Core. They were sort of back to back, and then I was fully hyped for Rebirth, and then both of us played through the whole game for like a full on month. It
Yeah.
felt like.
I think so. I can actually tell you what my dates are.
Oh, okay.
So it took me 18 days. I started it on March 1st and then I finished it on March 18th, and it took me a total of 60 hours to finish.
That
So-
feels about right. I think my end time was like 70 something.
I think you did a little bit more of the side stuff than I did. I eventually got fed up with it
Fair.
and just
Very
pushed
fair.
to the end after a while.
The only thing I think I still haven't done in Rebirth was just the Gilgamesh stuff.
Oh, yeah, like getting all the other summons and then doing the Gilgamesh
Yeah.
summon.
At that point, I was like, that's too much. I'm done with
Yeah.
the game. The story's over. I finished the regions. That's all I care about.
That's like in the original 7, I never got the Knights of the Round, I think it is.
Yeah,
Which
which apparently does break the game in the original because it can be very overpowered.
Yeah, but you've got to go to like some island way up north, and I think you need like a gold chocobo or something like that to get it, which is involves chocobo breeding, and I just wasn't down for doing that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, Rebirth happened, and that was like that just sort of defines my beginning of 2024. And then after that, it sort of I sort of shifted from, because around the same time I was still replaying like Resident Evil, because that was just like a go-to game for me very much at that point in the year. But I then sort of took that energy and shifted it into Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Because Silent Hill is sort of like the opposite side of the coin when it comes like for Resident Evil. I feel,
Yeah.
even if up until that point I hadn't had a game in a decade.
Yeah. I mean, 2 Remake just came out for us as we were recording this, and you've just finished playing it, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, Silent Hill's been on ice for a long time, and like even then, it's probably worth stating that like a lot of what came out in its later years was not very well regarded for the most part.
No, because Konami did what Konami always does, and it fucked it up royally.
Yeah.
And it had a good thing going, and then they came in and decided, what if we take this gold mine, fill it with cement, and then try and go into the shit mine?
What if we stop giving it to our Japanese team and start asking a bunch of Americans to make the game, which always goes so fantastically.
Genuinely, there is a moment in time where like it's right after like Silent Hill 4 came out. But actually, no, it goes back even earlier than that, because Konami was trying to meddle like even when Silent Hill 3 was being made, as I found out recently.
Oh.
Because like, despite how much praise the original Silent Hill 2 gets, it didn't sell as much when it originally came out. As you think, like it was steady,
Yeah.
but it was slow. And so Konami, there's a story I read that like Konami came in and they sort of pitched it. What if for 3, instead of doing like whatever story you've got right now, what if you make it a rail shooter?
What the fuck is wrong with Konami?
Yeah, it's like, it's got nothing. It's so out of left pocket as a suggestion. I read like that story and I was like, they fucking did what? But then Team Silent went, no, we're not doing that. What if instead we just rest the story we had for 3 and then for later, and then make another story for 3 that ties it more into 1? Will that make you feel better? To which Konami said yes.
Oh,
Which is why
okay.
3 is a direct sequel to 1 and not 2.
Okay, that makes more sense. See, I didn't actually know 3 was a direct sequel to 1 until now. But I've never played the game.
I don't want to go into details because like there's a lot. I feel like you're going to get to it at some point.
Yes, yeah. If I'm... There's a debate in me of whether to currently replay all of the Resident Evil games for a reason, or maybe work a little bit on that, but put that to the side for the time being and play Silent Hill or like some other new games rather than just replaying a bunch of games I've already played this year.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I've been half tempted to say like, hey, if you ever want like to stay in the survival horror stuff, but maybe take like a fresh break from Resident Evil just for a little bit, you should do Silent Hill.
Yeah, it is on my list. I've got it downloaded, ready to go whenever I'm there, ready to play it.
Especially the first game, it feels like it's the first game. Especially feels like it's not trying to appeal to Resident Evil fans, but like if you're familiar with Resident Evil, you'll enjoy especially the first one, just because it does feel that sort of familiar while giving you the Silent Hill feel right off the bat. But anyway, I played through the first game multiple times to get the endings, and then I played the second game, and the second game's story sort of it didn't break me, but it just sort of got to me a little bit. So I took a break after that and I did start 3, but I wanted to take a break and then didn't really complete it until just a couple months ago. All 3 of them are like really good games.
Yeah.
Like I definitely put them up there as some of the best games I've played this year. So again, heavy recommend.
Yeah, I like I say, it's on my list. It's just that debate of like, I have an idea of something I want to work on, and that would require replaying all of the Resident Evil games start to finish.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of like, do I do some work on that now to satisfy a bit of a creative itch, and then put it to the side and sort of come back to it later with like more fresh eyes and like a more kind of fresh perspective on the franchise, and inform myself of more stuff around the same time, which would include Silent Hill, it would include a bunch of other PS2 or PS1 just games in general. I just want to play other PS1 games and PS2 games. But yeah, for me, we've talked about Rebirth Defined in the beginning of the year. When I finished that, I then played a game called Parasite Eve, which again, similar time period as Resident Evil, and it still stands out to me as like an absolute top tier game. Like it's probably up there as one of my favorite games of all time now. It's like it's survival horror, but like it's made by Square Enix, and it takes a lot of their expertise in RPG and turn-based video games to build something like wholly unique. And it's a very interesting story, it's a very interesting game, the music's fantastic, it's composed by Yoko Shimomura, and then I played Parasite Eve 2 immediately after, which is just a Resident Evil clone, and I have a soft spot for it, for sure, but it's not...
I'm actually surprised, because I remember when you were playing it, you were not the biggest fan.
No, I found it very frustrating, but then I have replayed it once or twice, and it's okay. Like, it's clearly copying the Resident Evil formula. I mean, it's even written by the guy who wrote the first Resident Evil game. But it's still, like, fun for the most part, I guess. And I like what it attempts to do. I do have issues with it, and I mentioned them when I was playing it, where, like, in the first game, they never really sexualize Aya, the main character, whereas in 2 there is some of that, and then by the third game on PSP, Third Birthday, it's just fucking egregious.
Oh, great.
Because and I didn't finish, I did play a bit of Third Birthday, but I never finished it because it's an absolutely fucking awful trash heap of a video game. Because it's a PSP third-person shooter, so immediately,
because it was around that time for Resident Evil when 4 had come out, and that was the trend.
Yep. So you have Tetsuya Nomura, I believe, on character designs, who designed the characters for Final Fantasy VII and Kingdom Hearts and blah 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 blah. So it's got that very edgy look to it. All the characters have that.
I can see the style just like imprinted on my brain.
And there's a strange mechanic in 3 where you possess other characters. Like, the story is wholly disconnected, the theme and the premise of the game are wholly disconnected. It's a completely different thing. You possess, like, NPCs within flashbacks of a time period where ghost things invade New York. And one of the mechanics is that when you lose health, your clothes begin to tear up and disintegrate to the point that basically Aya has like very little clothes left on, and just simply swapping characters does not reset that. The only way to reset that is by finishing the level and then going and getting her clothes fixed in the present day at like the shower or the wardrobe or something like that. It's not a good game.
No, it doesn't sound like one. That is a blatantly, like, I want to say mid-2000s mechanic.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels like for a while, and it feels like we haven't really recovered fully, but like the gaming was trying to get into that sort of teenage boy sort of like, we're hardcore, look at these girls we got in our games. You like this?
Yeah. So I never finished it. Because it's not fun to play. It's also just, there's all that stuff. It's also completely unrelated to Parasite Eve 1 and 2. It is the third game, but it's nothing to do with the first two.
Yeah, but actually I think I remembered trying to read out. Was it like trying to be a sort of reboot?
I'm not 100% sure. Like, it sort of somewhat occasionally references stuff from the first two games, but also Aya's lost all her memories.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's bizarre. It's very bizarre.
It feels like the game, from what you've just described, it feels like all it's telling to me is that if I want a game about like hunting demons and stuff, just play Devil May Cry. Yeah, that's probably your best bet. Or like,
just
the game is trying to say, just jump the ship, bro. It's over.
Then I obviously was in the middle of my huge Resident Evil binge where I played through like 1 through 8 minus 5 and 7 because I'd played them the year before. Which you talked about
around the same time. Yeah,
you can go listen.
It was around this time I was sort of cleaning up like the stuff I hadn't played yet, which were mainly like 1 and 3.
Yeah, because I think I remember I ended up finishing 1 and 3 before you had finished them, and I encouraged you to go back and...
I think we actually finished... Well, I think you finished 3 before me, but I swear we finished 1 at like around the same...
Oh, maybe we did.
Same day.
Maybe we did. I must have been just thinking about 3 then.
So I remember the ending of 1 sort of just being a race between us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. But yeah, we've talked about that. There's a 2-hour episode that aired a couple of weeks ago that you can go listen to. After that, I played all the Dark Souls games again.
Oh, yeah, that was around that time.
Yeah, I say again, I had played a little bit of 1. The only Dark Souls, specifically, game I had actually finished was 3. I had never touched 2. I still wish it had been that way now. But yeah, no, I played Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Elden Ring. All back to back.
Yeah, I'm still surprised you did that.
They're very fun games, and when you get used to them and know how they all work, because I've played Bloodborne to completion multiple times before, and like I say, I've finished Dark Souls 3, I played a bit of 1. When you become familiar with FromSoft's like design and stuff, they're not as challenging. Sure, there's some parts where I want to smash my head against a wall and scream "what the fuck," but you know, they're fun for the most part.
Yeah. I believe you.
So 2 was the only one that like I just did not. I don't like 2.
Yeah, you hate 2.
I despise it so much. It's the same formula, but for some reason they've added in extra mechanics on top that just completely fuck everything up. Every time you die, you lose a portion of your health until you've only got 50% maximum health. You also, I can't remember if it's that game you lose a portion of your souls every time you pick them back up as well. I could be mixing that up with a section of 3 where there's a character that's stalking you, and like every time you die you lose something like 30% of the souls you had earned upon picking them up. But also in 2 you have the fact that if you kill an enemy too many times because you've died too many times, that enemy just straight up stops spawning, which limits your ability to grind as well, especially in the early game where you're like really needing to collect souls to level up. If you like lose those souls, which is probably going to happen, because you're not probably going to be able to get back to wherever the souls were, you're going to kill the enemy that many times that they stop spawning, which means you can't get those souls back whatsoever. It's so dumb. It's so fucking dumb. I mean, by the end of the game, it's just another mechanic to abuse, though, as well. It adds frustration because it's like, okay, well, it means they've designed the end of the game with a whole bunch of enemies that are a pain in the ass, but you essentially just have to die to them, or like go back to the bonfire and respawn them to the point that you kill them that many times they stop spawning in. Like, I had to clear a route to the end boss by doing that. Like, I had to kill a bunch of enemies, just I think it's 12 times each, and then they stop spawning, which is tedious for some of them, because like there's a type of enemy near the end of the game that I could only deal with one at a time, and by the time I had killed one of them, I needed to go back to the bonfire to restock my health refills and my something not my stamina. Maybe it was just health refills. It's been a while since I've played 2.
Yeah.
But that's just so tedious. There was like 6 of them, so that's like 12 times 6.
Yikes.
That's not fun after a while. So yeah, I didn't I didn't enjoy 2 in the slightest.
No.
But Bloodborne continues to be an absolute, favourite from that. I loved replaying Bloodborne. I just really wish it had like a 60 FPS patch.
Yeah.
Because even though it's 30 and like it's pretty solid, there's still like some weird stuttering issues from the PS4 days when you play it on PS5. I just either a full port to PS5 and PC, give it that amazing 4K presentation, or just a 60 FPS patch. Like, it's not much to ask for, really, for just the patch.
Yeah.
And then I lost 100 hours plus to Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And I got all the achievements for that one too.
Yes, you did.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny, there's some of the FromSoft games that are just a real massive pain in the ass to do that for. Like, I've not done it for any of the Dark Souls games, but I've done it for Bloodborne and Elden Ring because they're relatively straightforward to do it for. And Shadow of the Artree is fun, it's good. Should it be in contention for Game of the Year?
Yeah, should we talk about that a little bit right now?
I'm glad you brought it up because I wrote something.
Cool.
So I wrote, you can kind of see.
Jesus, that is a paragraph. You just pulled. Okay, for context, dear listener, Michael is just like, so because we're on a video call right now, Michael's just pulled out his phone and it's just like, it's on his notes and it's literally just the full phone is just filled with like a paragraph of words.
Yes.
This is going to be a treat.
Yeah. So I wrote this immediately after this was announced, and I seen some of the other categories for Game of the Year, and so I wrote this. So this is my thoughts on the whole DLC being in contention for Game of the Year.
Go off.
It should have its own category because it's fundamentally part of the industry at large. Like DLC expansions, it's just an ingrained factor of the industry now. It's every year. Well, Call of Duty's kind of changed it up, but they used to have the whole season pass gimmick where you would get 4 DLC packs across the life cycle of that Call of Duty, and it would add in multiplayer maps. If it was a Treyarch game, you would get a zombie map. If it was an Infinity Ward game, you would get whatever survival mode they had cooked up for that year. And now games like the FromSoft games like Elder Scrolls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, 3 specifically. In fact, all of them have had DLC, but 3, Bloodborne and Elden Ring all have like actual expansions. Then you've also got Cyberpunk.
I was gonna add Phantom Liberty is in that category as well. It's like the return of the expansion pack.
Yes, so now you have like bona fide expansion packs. It shouldn't be a Game of the Year contender.
No.
If only due to the simple fact that DLC asks a lot from a player to be able to access it. So specifically for Shadow of the Erdtree, you have to... it requires you to play a minimum of 30 hours, if not more, to get to it. So the minimum playtime you need to reach the point that you can access Shadow of the Erdtree is 30 hours. The recommended level you need to be to go into it from FromSoft themselves requires close to 100 hours of gameplay, or 60 plus, let's say 60, if you're being, brutally efficient. And then another example, just this year, Dawn Trail, Final Fantasy XIV. Should that be a contender for Game of the Year? No, because you need to play minimum of 300 to 400 hours of Final Fantasy XIV just to be able to start Dawn Trail. Because all of the expansions for Final Fantasy XIV happen sequentially.
Yeah.
So it just mounts and mounts and mounts the amount of playtime that you need, which if you're a Final Fantasy player, you don't give a shit about. But if it's in contention for Game of the Year, no one can then go and just pick it up and go, I'm going to play Dawn Trail, because you need 10 years worth of storytelling to, one, be able to understand where all the characters are at when you start that, but two, also to be able to reach that in the fucking first place.
Yeah.
And then you've got Phantom Liberty, which you need a minimum of 30 to 50 hours to access.
Yeah. I've seen so many comments just on that, just to sort of break in a little bit. I've seen so many comments already, and they're all the same, and I can agree wholeheartedly now that I've played it. If the Elden Ring DLC is eligible, why wasn't Phantom Liberty?
Exactly.
What's the difference?
But here's the thing: there's so many games that have come out this year that then were also not nominated.
It took up a seat.
Yeah, it took up a seat. So you don't have Persona 3 Reload, for example. You don't have Yakuza, well, Like a Dragon now, Infinite Wealth. There's Nintendo games like fucking Mario and Luigi Brothership, or whatever it's called.
Echoes of Wisdom for
Echoes
Zelda.
of Wisdom, the Zelda game. There's plenty of sure, this year is slower. I will admit there's less games that I've been interested in playing. I mean, but it's not that there's a lack of releases, So Astrobot made it, Metaphor ReFantazio made it, Balatro? I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think that was there.
I don't know anything about Balataro or whatever. I'm not 100% sure what its name is.
No, I've only actually heard of it through some Blue Sky accounts that I follow.
Yeah, and a lot of people are giving it shit for being a card game, which is that shouldn't preclude it from being Game of the Year if it's that good a game.
No.
It means it's not a game I want to play because I don't really care for that type of game. But Shadow of the Erdtree is taking up a spot, so there should be a category for DLCs, and it maybe doesn't need to be every single year. Maybe there's not enough meaningful DLC every year to fill a category for that, so make it a category that shows up when there is, or have it encompass a larger period of time than just the year. Because you could stack up just from this year, say Phantom Liberty and Shadow of the Erdtree, there's 2. Throw in Dawn Trail, you've got 3. You need 3 other spots to fill up the 6, I think, that most categories end up with for the nominations. Extend it to the year before, or a couple of years ago, and you can throw in Shadows of Rose for Resident Evil Village. I wish I had other examples, but off the top of my head, that's the ones I can call to mind.
There's definitely gotta be, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's dumb. I think it's dumb. Oh, and again, separate ways for Resident Evil 4 could also be included if you were covering, say, 2 or 3 years worth of content, because DLC, in terms of meaningful content, can be few and far between in a single year, whereas if you're going, 2 or 3 years, you may end up with enough for a short list and then 6 nominations, if, because you're looking at the industry as a whole, whereas we only play select video games, so I'm obviously only talking about from my experience, and there's probably more expansions. I don't know what the fuck WoW's doing right now, but they might have one.
Yeah.
Not that they ever show up on the Game of Year. They didn't show up for Best Ongoing this year, but 14 was there, and I certainly cast my vote for that, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the DLC thing for Game of the Year I think is dumb. I think it should have its own category. And I think people who are saying, yeah, it's a thing that people played, so it can be in contention for Game of the Year, but you can't just jump into it. Whereas I think the making of a Game of the Year is that if you see the short list, or if you see the nominations and you haven't played any of them, you should be able to just pick them up and play them and get an idea of which one you want for that. And I'm not saying you need to play every single game in Game of the Year. I only played
no, but the ones you're interested in, absolutely, because to jump in again, it didn't get nominated for Game of the Year, but it's in some categories like Best Narrative and I think Best Audio Design, which I also ended up giving it the vote for. Silent Hill 2 Remake again. I saw that on Game of the Year, and that was sort of the push I had to, like, because I had downloaded it before and I knew I was getting to it soon, but seeing it on Game of the Year, I was like, okay, I want to play it definitely soon, just so I can, like, decide on whether I want to vote for that in some categories or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I was able to pick up and play it, and there was no fucking minimum amount of playtime I needed of a base game just to get that. I think it's also just bullshit in the fact that it feels so much like a strings pulled sort of we wanted a FromSoft game to win pull. They
didn't know where else to put Shadow the Erdtree to give it some critical acclaim. And so they forced it in, which is like, that is why you make a new category like that.
Exactly.
I mean, the Academy Award for Best Animated Picture didn't exist for a long time because there wasn't enough competition within the space because it was always just going to be Disney. And sure, you can argue the fact it is still always going to be Disney that usually wins, but there is now enough studios within the space putting out enough content every year for a Best Animated Picture award category. We now have enough DLC that you can make its own fucking category. Even if it's like Best Expansion and Best DLC. And that DLC thing, as a separate category from Expansion, can be amorphous. You can make it for all the little smaller ones, because I'm looking at my list and there's like Power Washer stuff in here. But the Power Washer content is not going to stand up to like Phantom Liberty or Shadow the Erdtree. But maybe Power Wash put out a pretty good DLC, but it's not enough content to warrant the expansion category. We can put it in a smaller category and then throw in, like, again, I wish I had other examples, but I can't.
Like add-ons or something. Instead of like,
best cosmetics or maybe. Like, DLC is a part of the industry.
There are better ways to do it than taking up an actual full-on Game of the Year spot for something that doesn't deserve to be there because it's from a game that... Did Elden Ring already win Game of the Year? It did, didn't it?
Let me double check. Elden Ring won Best Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, and Best Role-Playing Game in the Game Awards 2022, because it did come out in 2022 or 2021, I think.
Is it really so deserving of another fucking award to have a DLC take up Game of the Year category?
I love Elden Ring, but it does not deserve this again. Yeah, no, it doesn't. And the fact that like we never got an expansion for Armored Core 6, I'm so pissed off about. Like, I love Shadow of the Earth Tree, sure. But there's so much attention towards Elden Ring again now that I'm like, FromSoft released a whole ass other video game in between these two things, and almost no one's talking about it now.
No.
And that's very annoying to me. Because I think Armored Core is great, and I think it deserves to be a thriving franchise again. And maybe that should get some critical acclaim and awards. But no, we're gonna shove in a DLC that takes, 60 hours plus to get.
They want to push an extra award on a game that came out 2 years ago.
Yep. Yeah.
If it actually wins the thing, it's gonna be such a fucking farce.
The thing is, I think it's also back in best role-playing game too.
Oh god, is it? It is gonna be, isn't it?
I think it is.
Hold on, where's RPG? There's RPG. Yep, there it is.
It's so dumb.
It doesn't deserve it. It just doesn't. I don't care how good the DLC is, and I'm not even like an Elden Ring like hater. I've not played the game yet, and I will play it. It's probably at some point when I finally get on my FromSoft like binge. That's probably gonna happen. Maybe in the next year. I don't know, but it just doesn't deserve to be here when it's just taking up a spot for an actual full game.
Yeah, like the fact that I haven't played it, but just on the sheer fact that the Yakuza / Like a Dragon franchise has managed to continue on for so long, revive itself from the 6th game, because it essentially like died off for a bit, revive itself with the 6th game, do a couple of spin-offs, and then completely redefine itself with 7, and then make something that looks as good as Infinite Wealth. And I mean that from a gameplay, from a visual, and from like a narrative standpoint. It all looks really incredible. I just haven't got around to playing it because I still need to finish 5, 6, 7, and a couple other games. But surely that could have been a contender, and not to throw an indie game under the bus for getting nominated, but is Balataro really
it is kind of a pull,
a showcase of gaming prowess when essentially someone's just made poker an RPG collectathon when you could just play solitaire on Microsoft Windows like in early 2000s. I feel like I'm giving it undue shit. It just feels like for a Game of the Year contender, the scope of the project doesn't really gel with my idea of Game of the Year. Best indie, fair enough. That's fine, because indie projects can vary in scale so much. But Game of the Year feels like something that like everyone has rallied around, and I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about Balataro until it got nominated. That felt like the first time I'd heard of it.
I still don't really know anything about it, I'll be honest. To me, it feels more like they wanted to throw a bone to some indie game for Game of the Year, and so they picked that one. I've not played the game. I don't know. It could be the greatest game I've ever played in my life. Who knows?
It could be a fantastic game. I'm just not into card games, I say as a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, but like, you know.
I'm more like, I don't like any sort of card games. So I mean, I can enjoy them. They're just not my main interest.
Yeah.
It's funny, by the way, because Infinite Wealth isn't in Game of the Year, but it is in Best RPG. So they're aware of it.
Yeah, they're aware of it.
Just apparently it's not as prestigious enough as a DLC for a 2-year-old game.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I wonder if Like a Dragon, like Yakuza Like a Dragon, the 7th game, was nominated at the time that came out. What year did it come out? Was it 2020?
Yeah. Can I also say, we're to sort of switch into something a little bit of a different category in this Game of the Year thing, but Best Content Creator of the Year.
Oh yeah, Usada Pecora.
We're gonna turn this into a 0.5 YouTube files now, bitches. Pecora, there she is.
Don't let her nomination for Content Creator of the Year let you distract you from the fact she bought a fucking monkey.
Yes, she did. That's why she got nominated. It was too powerful. You don't mess with the bunny with a monkey.
I loved seeing that list and going, I don't know who... Pecora?
Everyone had a collective, huh? Hey?
I think Kojima called up Jeff Keighley.
Genuinely, I have seen that comment so many times where, like, I'll be honest, I'm not sure if this actually happened. I think it's more just, they wanted to put a VTuber there just to show how much they've grown over the years, but I do love the image of Kojima calling up Jeff, being like, you know what I want. You know what you have to do, otherwise I will block all of you from my next project, I swear to God. Because Jeff was like, okay, we'll put in the bunny girl, and there she is. And I hope to God she wins.
It's the amount, I mean, Connor, CDog VA, has just put out a really good video discussing it, so I'll point you to that instead, but like...
Yeah.
This has also caused some amount of undue shit to be cast towards the VTube community once again.
What's new?
What's new? So yeah, if you want to know what's been going on with that, Connor has done a pretty good video.
From a much better source than we could ever be, even with our experience in this field. That feels weird to say.
Yeah, but back to what we've been playing. So I'm up to, like, not actually that long ago, because then I played Cyberpunk again and played Phantom Liberty.
I've been trying to think of, like, my mind, I'm sure I was playing games, like, in between, but, like, my brain sort of jumps from things to talk about, from, like, Silent Hill to from maybe, like, March, April-ish of this year to, like, summer with Cyberpunk when we started playing that again. Because it was in summer, I want to say around June, that I started my second playthrough of Cyberpunk, like, in full.
Yeah.
Got through all that, and then I did another playthrough in, like, September.
Yeah, you ended up replaying it while I was replaying it, which we've discussed. You could go back to our other episode. We finally played Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty.
Please give us the view.
This is why we should not be left unattended.
No, we just start shilling ourselves.
We just start talking about video games. So we talked about Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk, and you could go listen to that episode.
We could skip that entire section of the year, because we've already covered it.
I'm then up to my Dead Space replay, which came out of fucking nowhere for some reason.
I mean, I played Dead Space Remake.
Played Dead Space Remake, that's right. I think that's what prompted it from me, actually.
That was me that started that, because I finally... Cause I'll be honest, I think at some point, even, like, around the time I started my second playthrough of Cyberpunk, my brain at the time was like, okay, I actually want to get through Dead Space Remake. So I was still in, obviously, right after Silent Hill, I was still in a bit of a survival horror binge. I basically installed it on my PlayStation, and then I left it for months as I played Cyberpunk. And I was like, no, I installed it so I wouldn't do this, and then I did it. Anyway, after I was done with my third playthrough of Cyberpunk, I was like, no, it stops here. I am forcing myself to get to the Dead Space remake. And it was good.
It's good. Yeah, you gave it like...
It was a good game.
Yeah, you give it like, what, a 7?
Yeah,
I think is what you landed on. If I
play it again, I might bump it to an 8, because it was a really good game, but like, it was good.
my second playthrough recently, I gave it an 8 as well. I prefer the original. Because I talked about this with you when I was playing it, but like the first one is just much more fun. In fact, I talked about this No, I thought this was on an episode, but it wasn't. It was when we were talking with Melina in one of our calls. But like the remake kind of focuses on being more survival horror, whereas the original is like, it's kind of taking a lot of influence from Resident Evil 4, so it's like very fun, very kind of arcadey once you get into the thrust of the game. It's very easy to tip the balance of the game in your favor and be an overpowered monster.
You did tell me the original game very much is Resident Evil 4 in space.
Yes, and then 2 gets its shit together and is an even more better version. It's more linear. But then the first game's also kind of linear in the sense of, like, unlike the remake, where at any point you can go back onto the tram and visit other parts of the ship again, you can only go back to parts of the ship when the story takes you there. There's no, like,
it's not
traveling.
as open.
No, it's very much, like, chapter based. You can't then freely go back to places you've been. And then 3 is 3. It's fine. It's just it's designed around co-op, like all survival horror games at the time.
It was very much when 5 was influencing the sphere a little bit.
You had Resident Evil 5, you had Lost Planet 3, you had Dead Space 3, and
3s and 5s.
Yeah, and it's okay. Like, it's a decent game, but its big problem is that it's a co-op game where you are, if you play it solo, are not accompanied by an AI of said co-op character. That character just fucking disappears and goes off on their own, which means you're left with a game with an enemy count and encounter rate designed around having another player with you, which makes some of it a tedious mess.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit again in the Resident Evil video, so
yeah,
we'll not go too much into it again. But
so yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, they're games I think, aside from maybe 3, I could replay, like, again and again, and I used to back in my younger high school days when I had less video games to hand.
Yeah, you had more free time.
Yes.
It's funny, by the way, because like it's like you told me basically that the original Dead Space 1 was just RE4 in space, and it's like not long after that is when I bought the trilogy on Steam.
yeah, because I was like, hey, it's on sale on
like,
Steam,
shit.
By the way.
Like, shit, man, that's all you had to say. I'm sold.
Then you replayed Skyrim.
Yeah, I played a bit of Skyrim because because it's inevitable that no matter where you are, you will return to Skyrim at some point. I was basically just doing it. It literally was just because I'm between games and I need something to play. Yeah. And a thing about me, when it comes to winter, is when I get like an urge to play like some sort of Elder Scrolls game, I'm more into fantasy in the winter time. Like, sci-fi is still a big part there, but I can be more susceptible to fantasy in the winter times. Partially why I think I got into 7 so much last year.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
Yeah. But I played a bit of Skyrim. I mainly replayed the main story, the Civil War stuff, and the Dawnguard DLC, which I hadn't replayed in a while. But little added twist, I downloaded because it's Skyrim, I downloaded mods. Yep. Because it's a Bethesda game, and they're empty canvases for mods. It's like half their purpose. But the twist is that I downloaded a Serana mod that heavily extends her dialogue and like function in the game. So like she's a lot more of a rounded character and has like actual interactions with you throughout the story and stuff, in your relationships or builds and stuff. And it's a good mod. It's a very ambitious mod because there's so much extra recorded dialogue from a voice actress. Yeah. Oh, that I
didn't know.
Yeah. I didn't notice it at first, but like after a while, I immediately realized, wait, you do sound kind of different than how you usually are, because the voice actress does a good job in like the performance, and she does sound like Serana, but she doesn't sound like the original voice actress as well.
Okay.
She's a bit more lighter and more sort of, I'm going to say flirtatious, because it can be that kind of a mod.
Okay.
There is a sort of a love story that they try and like pull into it as well. I think you can turn it off. But I kind of was interested because I did want this character to just sort of go in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the one thing everyone wished they actually did with Serana, is make her a romanceable character.
Yeah, because even in the base game, she's the best companion because she has the most character. But yeah, good mod. I have some... I can argue that there's some points that don't feel like they fit with Skyrim, just in like the writing and the dialogue. There are some points where... And I've seen a comment that does sort of describe her as like a... sort of a bit of a tropey anime story.
Oh, okay.
Not in like a really bad way, but like she's still like a... She's not written like terribly, and she is competent. It's just, you know, some of the romance writing does sort of veer into that a little bit. But, you know, I don't have high standards sometimes, and it's a mod.
I mean, yeah, that's it's community made, so
yeah. And I enjoyed it. I think it enhanced the experience of that playthrough. So I give it a recommend. I think it's literally just called Serana, either Dialogue Overhaul or Dialogue Extended.
Ah, okay. I'll keep that in mind for when I inevitably at some point replay Skyrim again.
Yeah. But yeah, I did that, and then afterwards I decided, and I'm still in the process of, I'm going to replay the Batman Arkham games.
That's right. Yeah, you played Arkham Asylum, and now you're on Arkham City, I think?
I've started City. The thing is, it's not as much as a binge, because I've played these games before multiple times already. It's not as much of a straight binge. It's more of a, okay, I'll play through one game, and then either at the same time or maybe as a break, I'll switch to another game and just sort of like an on-off sort of binge.
Yeah.
But I have started City now. But the thing about Asylum is that, and the reason I did want to start is because I have never actually 100% completed Asylum before.
Ah, okay.
And for me, when I say 100%, I mainly just mean I haven't done the Riddler stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's always the thing with the Arkham games. You can do the main story, but then there's also the whole Riddler stuff, which is just the collect-a-thon section of the game.
Yeah. I remember when Night came out, and I did everything, because I was trying to get the Nightfall ending cutscene. And I had been given conflicting information on whether you needed to do the Riddler stuff or not. And no, you did. You had to do all of the Riddler stuff, and that was at the point where I just went, fuck that.
Yeah, because I'm insane, because I've beaten Arkham Knight 100% 3 times.
Dude! What the fuck?
It's funny, the first time I did it, it took like 2 to 3 years to just do the Riddler stuff.
And you think I'm insane for getting all the achievements in Elden Ring?
I didn't say you were... I didn't say I wasn't insane. It took like 3 years for me to actually complete the Riddler stuff the first time. And then in like 2020, after lockdown had beaten me down, I went insane for like a month. This was the last time I played most of the Arkham games again, and I beat Arkham Knight on a new fresh playthrough, and then I saw that there was one skin that was the only thing left to unlock that required you to do New Game Plus 240% with the DLC.
Jesus Christ.
So I did it all again.
And
now I'm going to do it for a 4th time at some point in the future.
Oh my god.
Because my purpose right now is to beat the ever-loving shit out of that green question mark fuck.
I haven't even
I can't let him know he beats me. I can't let him beat me.
I haven't even replayed Night since it came out. I mean, it's a great game. Good. I just haven't replayed it.
Yeah. You don't have to do 100% it, but I would say it's worth a replay at some point.
I mean, I do intend to replay all of them at some point. I love the Arkham games a lot. And I think Night was...
To this day, I think one of my favourite versions of Batman.
And I think Night was a very ambitious game. It's just a shame the PC port sat in a bit of a shit show state for a long time, until I think sometime during lockdown when they randomly fixed it.
Yeah. I will say, I don't think I've actually... Oh no, I have Arkham Knight here. It's Origins I haven't downloaded yet because it's not in the pack.
Oh, I don't think... Do I have Origins for PC? We're Batman. Oh, no, I do have it, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Origins is another one I want to replay.
Yeah, absolutely. Origins is definitely worth a replay as well. It's still sort of underrated, I'd say.
Yeah.
Especially by Rocksteady, who sometimes don't acknowledge its existence.
Yeah, I wish it would get re-released at some point. Though maybe not, because the PS4, PS5 re-release of City and Asylum aren't the best.
Return to Arkham?
Yeah.
Yeah. To go into this real quick, I've not played Return to Arkham, but I've seen like the gameplay, like the graphics changes and stuff, and there are some things I really like. There's a standout to me that like Joker in Return to Arkham Asylum looks really good. I think his colors pop a lot more.
Yeah.
You can argue that goes against the art style, but I really like it when Joker's bright and colorful like he should be.
Yeah.
But the thing about Return to Arkham, I don't know if it's in City as well, but Return to Arkham Asylum's Batman model, they've changed the way his face looks.
There's also a lot of lighting issues as well, from what I remember, and like just general like changes to how things look. From like a, I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked at it. I do have those because they were really cheap at some point. So I was like, fuck it. I'll buy them, and then at some point I'll play them and probably complain about them. But I did remember looking at a comparison, and for me it comes down to like the lighting and that kind of messing with like the tone and stuff like that from what I remember. I don't think I've seen the comparison of the Batman model though. Now that I think about it.
I just remember seeing, I swear it was Asylum, that like Batman, specifically his chin, they reshaped it.
Oh, okay. That's strange.
To be like, it doesn't fit with like the way he's supposed to look, so it looks like he's got these weird sort of growths on like his chin.
Oh, strange.
It's not great, no. So that's what threw me away from Return to Arkham Asylum, which is why I just bought them again on PC. And I downloaded a HD texture pack mod for Asylum.
Nice.
And the Joker DLC, because that's still PS3 exclusive.
Oh,
to this day.
Wow.
I think anyway.
I mean, I
did have to download the DLC again, so.
Okay.
From sources.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I played through Arkham Asylum, and for the first time did all the Riddler stuff, and it's tame compared to the rest of the series. It's definitely prime time where you just put on like a podcast or a video and you just run around, but we're not in the insane levels yet. No, that's not until City.
Which you've got to do soon.
Yeah, I've done it before multiple times. God. I will do it again.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, after I finished my Dead Space marathon again, I returned once again to good old faithful Final Fantasy XIV. Because
you can't escape it, man.
I hadn't finished up some of the Endwalker stuff. So back in July, the newest expansion came out, Dawn Trail, which I had pre-ordered for both PS5 and PC.
I have to ask about it. I don't think I ever asked. Did you play Final Fantasy IX because of Dawn Trail coming out, and that because does Dawn Trail have like connections to 9?
I found no, they didn't announce that Dawn Trail had connections to 9 until after I had played 9. Because the Raid series is based on 9, I believe, or it has references to 9 because the bonuses you got for pre-ordering it, both the standard edition and the digital deluxe edition, are stuff from 9. So you get 2 minions for Garnet and Zidane, the 2 main characters, and then you get an Arc mount, so it looks like the little airship thing from 9. But no, I didn't know that until after.
I brought that up because I do remember Penny from snapcube.gay on Blue Sky, who's a YouTuber and streamer I watch pretty regularly. I know she played Final Fantasy 9 because of that, because Dawn Trail had connections to it. So I was just wondering if you did the same thing or not, but
No,
I don't think you did.
we didn't even I think when I played it, I don't think we even had the release date. I think we just had the name and like the like first image. I don't think we'd even had like any information yet, because it came out in July, and I don't think we got any of that until like maybe February or March.
Okay.
Because I remember when they announced it, the producer had said like, we did shift the release date because of Shadow of the Erdtree, so we're giving you 1 week, and then you're gonna have Dawn Trail.
So you better get through that fast.
Yeah. But you know, I finished the main part of Endwalker back in January, which is like the main stuff that released when the expansion dropped, which for Endwalker, unlike the rest of the expansions, was conclusive for that story. Every other expansion usually continues until the third patch, when they wrap it up, and then the last two patches end up setting up the story for the next expansion. For Endwalker, it ended with the base expansion, because it was like the end of the main story that had been built up over the 10 years the game had been out. And then so I went back and I finished the like patches in between Endwalker and Dawn Trail, which were their own disconnected storyline that had nothing to do with anything in either expansion, which made the first one just a little bit mundane to play through, because it was a lot of setup for that, and it was so much talking, and having just finished Endwalker, it was such a tonal shift.
I can imagine, yeah. You're going back like how many years?
Yeah, emotional high of this, to then we're going back down to the political shenanigans and just characters talking endlessly without any VO, and I was like, okay, normally I'd be fine with this, but goddamn.
But I love political shenanigans.
So then I finished 6.1, and I didn't pick it back up until this month, where I played through 6.2, 3, 4, and then 5. And it's a really good story, because it's heavily influenced by Final Fantasy 4, so you got Golbez and the Void and all that sort of stuff. It's really interesting, it's really good, really fun. And so I finished that, and now I can start Dawn Trail, but I'm not going to be doing that soon, because I've got so much other shit in the game I want to do first. I've ignored so much just by playing the story and nothing else. I've done like some of the raids and some of the extra dungeons and trials, but not much of them. So the other day, I finished up the Heavensward 24-man raids, which was a very boring storyline, unfortunately. And then I went back to A Realm Reborn, and I played the 8-man raid from that, which is weird, because like narratively it's very good to have played it prior to starting the second expansion, Stormblood, but you can't play it prior to starting Stormblood unless you have people you know that you can play it with, because the Binding Calls of Bahamut, which is the raid series, isn't part of any of the roulettes, and you can't find it by going through Duty Finder, which is the main way of just connecting with random players, because it's not in any of those sections.
Oh no!
Because it came out with the Realm Reborn's patches, and they hadn't. This was when the game was relaunched, and they were still figuring everything out. So like the difficulty of Binding Calls of Bahamut is actually more aligned with what would later become known as Savage and Extreme versions of the raids, which are more difficult, more challenging versions. So there aren't any Savage or Extreme versions of those raids, but because they're already that difficulty, but it means they're not part of any roulettes, because you can't play them level capped at 50 unless you have people that know what they're doing. So until you play through to the end of Shadowbringers and you're like level 80 plus, you can't tackle them on your own unless you have people that you can enlist to join you. So I played through them all solo at level 95, which made them a fucking piss-ass breeze, where every enemy went down in one hit, because it's level 50 raids. But the story was good, so that, and it made me appreciate a character who just randomly, having been completely not present since very early on in A Realm Reborn, shows back up again and is with you the rest of the expansion, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? I don't care about you.
Go home.
They've grown on me on time. They're a twin to one of the characters who's with you from like halfway through. No, very early on in A Realm Reborn, actually. Through like everything else, especially Heavensward. So you make like a very close connection with that character, and then you hit Stormblood, and like they're not there as much, and their twin sister essentially tries to take up that role, and I was just like, who the fuck are you? Where are we? No.
Get out of my fucking seat.
But I really wish I could have played that prior, because it built up her character a little bit more to help me understand where she was for that whole time, but also like narratively where she's at as a character. But yeah, no, I don't think I'll probably play anything as good as the Binding Coils of Bahamut.
Okay.
Not if the Shadow of Mahach is anything to go by, which is very boring, and it had Sky Pirates in it, so you would think it would be very good, and it's just kind of dull. There's a character called Keishi in it too, so you know, a clear reference to multiple different characters from Final Fantasy at this point. Well, Kate Sith from 7 primarily, because obviously, well, I guess most people don't know, but like Kate Sith is not the pronunciation, even though that's what they went with in Rebirth. No. It's based on a Scottish
a Gaelic sort of like name for like a mythical sort of like mythological like creature, basically.
Yeah.
Hatshi.
I think it's Keishi is closer. Keishi. Yeah. But yeah, no, they didn't go with that in Rebirth, much to my chagrin.
And I'm still kind of annoyed at that.
Yeah.
Respect the language, motherfuckers.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So, some of it's fun, some of it's not. I want to play through the rest of the raids, if nothing more than to just add in more variety to the roulettes for getting like currency and leveling up. Because right now I only have the limited stuff from like dungeons from the main story, trials from the main story, and raids that I've done from like obviously the few that I've played, which are like the Heavensward one, which are Alexander, where you go through the big mecha Alexander, which is actually kind of fun, but they're very short, so that's the only kind of problem with them. And then what other ones? I feel like I've got more raids than that, but I think it's mostly just Alexander now. So I need to play through everything else from like Stormblood, Shadowbringers, Endwalker. I got plenty of content.
Yeah, you have things to do.
I do, and I've already got like 450 hours in the game as it is.
Yeah, that's why I'm so fucking shocked. MMOs terrify me, man.
Yeah. I mean, some of that is inflated to the fact that, like, in Endwalker, I'd just spend more time fucking around doing nothing. Like, I'd just sometimes be in the game. Other times I would be like, oh, I'm gonna go and seek out this job role so that I can then have it and I can work on it later. So I've got, like, 2 tank jobs that I can take on, but, like, I'm kind of nervous because I haven't played a tank since the very early points of Heavensward, which was like maybe 50 or 60 hours into me playing the game, and now I'm 400 plus hours in, and I've played DPS for the vast majority of that, so I know the DPS role really well, especially scaled up to high level content, but I do not know tank very well anymore, especially at high level content, and like I need to level them up and I think the one of the tanks that I looked at starts at like level 70, so like it's already higher level than I was when I was originally tanking, where I only got to like level 50 or 60. So yeah, I just the only reason I'm nervous about it is because it's an MMO, which means you're playing with other people, and tank is like the arguably most important role because you're the one taking on most of the attention and damage and getting enemies to follow you, and people expect like pinpoint precision, and I just don't want to get yelled at. So like some of the early stuff, like the fucking same boss battle you play all the damn time during one of the roulettes, which is where you go up against Ultima, the final boss of A Realm Reborn, because it's designed so that new players can always consistently get a match. It's a dedicated roulette for the main scenario quest, and it's just literally got that and the dungeon prior to that boss battle. That's the only two things in the main scenario roulette, and most of the time you end up popping for that boss battle, and so I know that one really well, but I don't know everything else. Like, it's just, yeah, I'm nervous to do it. I'll probably get over it at some point and start.
Yeah, time through it.
Yeah, but yeah. God, I've already lost so much time to that game, and I'm gonna lose even more to it.
Yeah, you're barely even halfway through.
I mean, this morning before we started recording, I literally just went on to reorganize my inventory and clean it up.
Oh, so that's what you were doing?
Yes,
okay.
I was stood in one of the like rooms that you can access, and was just moving stuff from my armory chest that's like on your character, because you can only hold 25 per like section, so like headgear, chest gear, blah blah blah. You only hold 25 per, and because I've been doing the raids and stuff recently, and doing Binding Calls of Bahamut by myself, which means I just get all of the loot. I'm not leaving before I can get it, because other people are rolling for it, because you can roll, and because there's other people, you can say, oh, I want that, or I'll pass on it, blah blah blah, whatever. But no, doing Bahamut solo, I got all of it, and some of it you ended up with like twice, or some of it you ended up with classes you're not playing, so I just had to go in and like move everything out of my inventory to down to the bare essentials of what I need for like my various jobs, which is good because I put them in my glamour chest, which means I can just go in and make outfits out of them now.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah.
Jesus Christ, that was a lot of Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I talked about this on the podcast, I had basically just started it. I had only just kind of finished, I think, the main story of A Realm Reborn, and was working my way up to Heavensward at the time, which is a while ago now.
So, about 400 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been playing a game that didn't take that much fucking time. I mean, you're on like hour 450 of that, whereas I just beat Silent Hill 2 Remake in the last like week, and that only took 16 hours.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is still like 10. It's still like 10 plus hours compared to the original game. Because I'd like to make a public apology to Team Blooper, because I think that's how you say it, yeah.
Isn't it Bloober?
Bloober, yeah.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say Blooper, but... public apology, I was a doubter, I'll admit. When it was announced, I was like, I don't trust Konami anymore.
Yeah.
They've burned too many bridges in the past.
And nothing like that they showed gave anybody any faith.
No. Screenshots came out and they were fine, but then trailers were coming out, people saw it was, there's a lot of focus on the combat here. That's not really what Silent Hill was about. There's QTEs. Why are there QTEs? There's prompts for it. And then the game came out, and all of that completely 180'd into praise. Because, yeah, the remake is really fucking good. It is really good. They gave it the RE remake treatment. but
in
like
the best ways.
in the best way possible. I don't mean that as like derogatory.
Yeah, because that was being used as like a negative view of it before it came out. It looked too much like Resident Evil 2 remake, and it did. It kind of looked like they were taking a similar approach, which, you know, given the differences in what the actual games are, I understand why that was a fear.
Yeah. People were scared it was going to become just a Resident Evil clone, which isn't what Silent Hill 2 was. It was very unique, especially in its narrative. But no, you can tell it's a love letter to the original game, and there's so many little nods. There's so many little, not even just to the original game, but also other games in the series. But not to the point that like they're distracting. They're all very perfectly placed, and the expansions to the narrative, because this is very much Silent Hill 2 expanded in a lot of ways, which I actually didn't expect, because I don't want to give any story spoilers, so I won't talk about the story, even though it's really good. But on a gameplay narrative, all the sort of, I want to say dungeons, but just sort of sections of the game have been like extended, and like the actual like places you explore have been completely rebuilt from the ground up. Like they've been completely redesigned.
Okay.
So like the puzzles are similar, but like the how you get them and how you explore these like areas is completely different. And I wasn't sure how they would go, but I can confidently say they were all done very well.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It fits a lot with the new, like, the over-the-shoulder like camera, because the original Silent Hill 2, it didn't have fixed camera angles, but it was very much that sort of, the camera can swap around and like change where it is and stuff. It wasn't over the shoulder.
Okay. So it was like, it was fixed, but less like fixed angle than like Resident Evil.
Yeah, sort of like that. It was like semi-fixed. The camera would still go behind like James and stuff, but like it wasn't like a full-on over-the-shoulder. It was more like a cinematic approach. But 2 remake definitely follows the RE remake structure of over-the-shoulder, but like it's still very survival horror. It is a bit more combat focused than the original game, but like not in the same way that Resident Evil is. Like you're using a lot more of the melee mechanics, a lot more to deal with enemies than you are like with guns. You do have a selection of weapons, but I try not to use the weapon like the guns as much, because the bullets are very valuable, especially on the later ones. So unless it was specific enemy types that could just be made a bit easier and I can sacrifice the bullets for, I'd mainly keep the guns for boss fights. Like that's the kind of game that Silent Hill is. It was a really good game. There's so much I can't talk about that I do want to, because they're narrative focused, and Silent Hill 2 does, even though its gameplay is good, it lives and dies by its story.
Okay.
So all I want to say right now, very good game, very impressed. I'm very sorry I doubted you, Bloober. And for the love of God, please remake Silent Hill 1 and 3. That's what I want next.
This is also a
and
call.
Konami, don't fuck up the next Silent Hill like main game as well, please. For the love of God, you have a gold mine. Do not fucking screw it over.
I'm also going to use this small time to continue to petition Capcom. I know you're probably going to do Resident Evil 5 remake next, or Code Veronica, which fair enough, it needs it. Please go back to 1 and just bring it in line with what you're currently doing. We know remake exists. We know everyone fucking loves it, except the 2 sitting right here recording this, because apparently
we're the only ones with hot takes on this, apparently.
Yeah. Just, you have an opportunity to flesh everything out, because it is the sore thumb of this whole thing. You start with 2. Claire is looking for her sister? Her brother.
Chris transitioned. I'm so proud of her.
And it would just probably it would really help if there was a remake of 1 that was in line with 2 and 3 and 4, just to help new players. Because I don't think going from 2, 3, and 4 to the first remake, which is the only one on Steam and stuff, it's not a great experience. It's not a great look for new players. I don't think it's going to bring them in the same way.
I do want to bring this up though. It's funny that we've talked about RE1 Remake today, and that's like the best way to play the most accessible way to play RE1, because just today, on the day of recording this, RE1 Director's Cut is actually available straight just for purchase on the PlayStation Network store. Not through like the fucking premium tier thing. The
toppest of tiers of PS Plus. It was the same with Dino Crisis. They've now also made that available to purchase for very reasonable prices. They're $7.99 each, which I was surprised about, which means I'm probably going to buy fucking Resident Evil for a fourth time for the first game. Because I own Remake. Fifth. I own Remake. I own the PC port for GOG. I own the original Japanese release. I also own the Director's Cut re-release of the Japanese version, and now I'll probably be buying the Director's Cut version for the PS5.
For me, it's only... it's the fourth time actually for me, because I did get Remake on a Switch as well.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Just because in case, that felt like a comfortable place to do it.
I forgot the first time I ever bought Remake was actually on Xbox One. Back in like 2016, so I've bought it like 6 times.
And now you're gonna do it again.
Yes. Fucker. Yeah, because I'd never...
I mean, and so am I.
Yeah.
I'm especially gonna get Dino Crisis, because Dino Crisis is on my list of next survival horror to play. I
will probably play Dino Crisis first, emulated. And I'll admit, the only reason I'm gonna buy them on PS5 is because, one, owning something is a great way to show that you support and want the product available, which means that there is a higher chance of Resident Evil 2, 3, Dino Crisis 2 being added to PlayStation ports for that. But also achievements. I'm a fucking sucker for trophies.
Yeah, you are.
And I will probably platinum at least Director's Cut at some point when I buy it. And I'm sure I'll probably end up liking Dino Crisis just as much and end up platinuming that too at some point, because
one thing I want to say, by the way, that we've never really said on the podcast, the biggest difference between me and you and how we play games is you care about achievements and I don't.
Sometimes I'm not an achievement hunter in the way that some other people are. I have a friend who is way more into it than me, who has gotten every achievement for every Call of Duty, which includes all the ones that need the zombie Easter eggs, and I think he's a psycho.
The zombie Easter eggs that take hours to actually complete. Oh, Jesus Christ.
The amount of times he's come into work and told me I was up till 4 a.m. just doing one achievement, and I'm like, you are actually insane.
What are you doing, man?
You need to be institutionalized. For me, it's just a way of if I really like a game, I'll platinum it. And sometimes some things, even though I really love it, are not worth the effort of platinuming. I intended to do it with Remake for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it means you need to play the game through in full on hard mode, and I was like, oh fuck that, I'm not doing that.
Yeah
I'm not.
That's why I don't care about achievements, because I can't do that for if a game requires me to do challenges, actual challenges, combat challenges, or thing. I mean, depending on the game, and if I really do love it, I'll try and just do that, but it won't be for the trophy. It'll just be because I like the game. The only games I have dedicated myself to actually getting the platinums has a weird cut. The PS4 Spider-Man games.
That makes sense.
But that's because they're relatively easy to get.
Yes, they're very fun to get too, and that's a big factor for me as well. Is it's sure, there might be do this challenge or do this thing a certain way. It's it depends how fun that is. I have almost every Power Wash simulator achievement, except maybe some of the DLC ones, because they keep adding new ones with the DLCs. And the only reason I don't have all of them is because for some of them you need to play the challenge mode, which means time trial and using X amount of water for each stage. And for me, that's just not a fun way to play the game. It's very counter to how I enjoy playing the game, which is just chilling out and listen to a podcast and whatever. Whereas something like Elden Ring, a lot of it just comes from naturally playing the game. It's an open world game, so a lot of the stuff you'll find naturally, or in the case of some stuff, you just Google a list of where to find every legendary sword or every legendary magic thing, and then you go find it, and it's very easy to do, and then maybe you save scum the last 2 endings. Like I did. Because I wasn't doing a third playthrough, nor was I doing all the side shit that's needed to get one of the endings if you want to get the other one at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Because I could have... It still requires save scumming, but I could have avoided fighting the last boss twice in my New Game Plus playthrough had I basically gone through this side quest that gives you an item that means you can avoid the quote-unquote bad ending of the game. So I could have got the bad ending, reloaded the save right before you choose your ending, which is after the boss fight, and then use that item to avoid the bad ending. But I didn't do that. I just decided, fuck it, I'll fight the boss twice.
Okay. Fair enough.
But you know, it depends on the game. Depends how fun it is to do, and depends how much I enjoy the game. I'm not like die hard about it.
Yeah, I usually just set up my own parameters of how much I want to, how I feel like I've completed the game, and then I just leave it there.
Yeah.
If I get trophies along the way, that's a fun bonus. But
yeah,
they're never my priority.
Like I kind of usually know if I'm gonna platinum a game. Like I'm probably gonna platinum Astrobot when I get back to playing that again. Because I platinumed the Astrobot thing that comes with PS5. I can't remember what it's called. Playroom. Astro's Playroom? Yeah. And like they're relatively the same like difficulty level. Astrobot's just like a full game version of Playroom. So, but yeah, and now whenever the next Spider-Man game comes out, I know I'm gonna platinum that. So.
It might be a Venom game, although maybe not anymore. Maybe
not anymore. I also platinumed Ratchet and Clank, so whenever I guess I should say if they ever do another Ratchet and Clank game, I'll probably platinum that as well.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think
also I do want to petition Capcom just to get back on that point real quick. Yeah, remake one, but also do really remake Code Veronica. It fucking deserves it.
Please give us a remake of Code Veronica. I've already complained in that episode about why Code Veronica is a very good game, but is very frustrating to play, and it sucks because you can just soft lock yourself halfway through the game.
It's the one that requires the remake. You can, and if you think it won't sell well, I've got an idea. Mark it as the sequel to 2, because it's the sequel to 2.
Yeah.
And people love 2 nowadays.
Yep.
It's arguable that 2 is the most iconic Resident Evil game now.
I also think they don't need to worry about sales numbers, because the re-franchise is just in a point where they could announce and release it and people would buy it. They've done 2, 3, 4, and they've also had 7 and 8 come out all in that sphere, and each one has done incredibly well. It's re-established the re-franchise within the gaming market. They just need to fucking announce and release it and people will buy it because it's a Resident Evil game.
I think there's a fun fact, by the way. Every, at least modern Resident Evil game, up until maybe very recently, has outsold the entire Silent Hill franchise.
There you go.
Every game individually outsold that entire franchise.
That makes sense.
So, fucking just do it, Capcom. It's free money, and it would make so much more sense than doing 5 right now, where no one knows who Wesker is.
Yeah, just don't give it to a B team while you're working on the other one and do what you did to 3. Don't make the same mistake again.
We'll wait. Give me more Claire. Anyway, that's my closing thought.
Yes. This has been another.
Any games you want to say you're going to play in the future, just to close out the year?
Well, I think now that you've talked about Silent Hill, I think when we've immediately finished recording, rather than going on Final Fantasy XIV and wasting some of my day just doing nothing, I might boot up Silent Hill.
Yes! Yes, I am bouncing right now, yes!
I also have currently a tab group of ROMs that I'm gonna download.
Not on the podcast, it's illegal.
Oh, when it comes to emulation for certain generations, I don't actually care because there's not enough of a preservation effort to make these games accessible currently. Xenogears,
emulate your old games.
Yeah, Xenogears, Xenosaga currently don't have a feasible way of accessing them. So those are there, and an old Terminator game that I do own, so I don't care about downloading the ROM for that one.
And those old Silent Hill games, you have to really download like from the one I used up until recently. It was very consistent that Silent Hill 1 was the most downloaded game because where else are you going to get it in this day and age?
PS3 is the only way you can buy it. You need to buy the digital version of the PS1 Classic, which I'm not sure if that's got issues, or I think it may have been delisted in the UK or something like that. I remember seeing something about it not too long ago.
And either way, using the PS3 store is clunky. So.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I wish there were some games that they would re-release, even if they're just direct ports onto current hardware, because going back to a PS3 and Xbox 360 is just so much effort now. Because the controllers also have not aged well. The Xbox 360 controller is fine, I will say that. It's a very good, unusable controller. It's one of the best controllers ever made.
PS3 one was always terrible, though.
Yes, the PS3 controller sucks. So I have an adapter that I spent like £30 or £40 on just to use a DualSense with it, with all the features like rumble and stuff. So the fact you need to do that just to make a usable working console that still sucks to use because the XMB is not a good experience. And the store, they updated it to match the PS4 store at the time the PS4 launched. And it's clunky as fuck now.
Great.
It's not a fun experience.
And to add funds, you have to do it in a weird workaround way of like the website.
You need to add it to your wallet, either by the mobile app, the PS4, the PS4, PS5 store, or by the website. You can't directly buy anything with a card anymore because of GDPR. Also, the games all run at like 30 FPS or lower as well, and like just give us ports where we have the uncapped frame rate. And I'm not dusting off my Xbox One just to play Gears of War 2 and 3. I'm not doing that.
Like, nah.
Give me them on PC. You've got every other Gears of War game on PC at this point, Microsoft.
Yeah. So anyway, that's probably going to close out your year of gaming.
Yes, I will probably play through the Silent Hill trilogy. Maybe 4? I don't think I have 4 at the moment, but I think you can buy 4 for PC.
I haven't checked, but I do already have 4 through those means.
I think it was on GOG at some point. I don't know if it still is. I know one of the Silent Hill games is on GOG. Anyway.
If it is, I'll probably like purchase it, but my plan is to maybe get through 4. It's not as big a priority as the trilogy was, just because it takes a bit of a side, not a sidestep in direction, but it is a different sort of direction.
Yeah.
From what I understand, even though it's by the same developers, and it is a Silent Hill game, and it is part of that universe. It's just you're not part of the town; it's part of a different location. And stuff.
Okay.
But I'm probably gonna do that, and maybe I'll play through Dino Crisis.
That's another thing I'm being drawn towards as well. Now
that it's just available, and maybe the Chris playthrough of RE1 because I still haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah, I haven't done that either.
And beyond that, probably the rest of the Arkham series.
I will probably buy Silent Hill 2 Remake at some point soon for PC. And then that way I have it there when I've done the originals, and then I can play through that.
Okay, I'm excited to see you just react to like, especially 2's story, because 2's story is really good. 2 and 3 are, I think, my favorite of like the 2 so far. It's hard for me to choose between 1 because 3 has really good gameplay and like map design, whereas 2 has a really good story. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
1 is really good though as well. I can't stress that enough. I love them all.
Well, there we are. This is one of our final episodes of the year. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with us again through another year where we've actually just kept going up and up in numbers. So if you've
Long may
enjoyed,
it continue.
yeah, long may it continue. If you're listening to us for the first time, you can hit that subscribe button and come back every week. There's a new episode every Friday.
If you like us and subscribe to us enough, we will summon Melina back.
Yeah, Melina will be back probably in February, I believe.
Well, yeah, we'll bring her back from the void, but we need your likes and your subscription. Come on.
And just a reminder that January 3rd, I believe it is, there should be a new episode. No, that's December I'm looking at. What am I doing? Yes, December, January 3rd, there should be a new episode. However, because it's the new year, we want everyone just to have a good time. We're going to put out an EX episode. We'd rather not force ourselves to make an episode during that period.
We need a break too.
We need a break too. So, yeah. We will see you guys next week where we're talking about Royal Space Force and the rest of My Dress Up Darling.
Yeah, have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Why are we waving?